Welcome to Entering Entertainment. I'm Maya, and today we are doing something a little different, and we're going to be checking in with some SF State alums who have graduated and are making their entrance into the entertainment industry. Now we're going to call up my friend Bunny, see what she's up to. She's now in Los Angeles. She moved back there after graduation, and last time I checked her Instagram story, she was on the red carpet, so we have to see what that's all about. Let's give her a call.
Hi, I'm Bunny. I'm a recent SF State graduate. I graduated with my BA in English literature and a minor in cinema. And yeah, I graduated and I'm currently based out of Los Angeles and kind of just um, re-entering the production world here in LA and getting accustomed to it. So yeah, thank you for having me, Maya.
Oh my gosh, thank you for being here and giving us your time and insight. So, first of all, Bunny, I want to say congratulations on graduating last semester. And now you're back home in LA and you've already been on the red carpet. That's insane and amazing. And so, how was that experience? How did it all start? How did you land this gig?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for your kind words. Yeah, I was working as a production assistant for NBC under E. So E live from the red carpet, that's where I was working. And honestly, it's just so funny. Like, you really just get these things and land these gigs without any planning or any expectation of it. There was no way I would have known, even a week and a half before the Emmys even happened, that I was going to be working them. Someone had passed my name along to a production coordinator, and I guess I got a good review and I got reached out to and asked if I was available on those days, and I was, so I worked it. I had received a text message from a production coordinator who I suppose has been with NBC for, from what I've gathered, a couple of years at this point. And she had heard from a friend of mine and someone I've worked with in the past on gigs that I was a good PA. And she asked me if I was available to work the live red carpet event as well as 2 days pre-production for that, or not pre-production, but setting everything up for the event. Um, and like I said, I was available, so I said yeah.
Amazing. Now, tell me, walk me through. You don't, if you want to walk me through the days before the event or the actual day of the Emmys, like what did you do? What was it like? What was the atmosphere? How did it all go down?
Yeah, of course. Well, being a PA, you're never really promised any particular role on set. You're kind of just expected to wear a lot of hats, and that's pretty much what I did on standby as a PA, especially at the Emmys, because so much was required to get this huge production and live event where there's a lot of stress off the ground and in motion. So I was working for 2 days before the Monday that was the event. And those 2 days, I came to the
Mhm.
truck camp, which is where we were all set up. That was right outside Crypto Arena. And basically, like I said, was on standby for whenever our production manager needed anything from us. So that includes anything from, you know, um, uh, getting standbys or stand-ins that were acting as actors that were kind of rehearsing the whole flow of the show, mic'd and ready. Um, it also meant, setting up tents in classic PA
Mhm.
fashion, um, getting refilling hand sanitizer. There's just like an endless list of what seem like really minuscule duties that you're just asked to do throughout the whole day. And that was pretty much what I did, a huge array of those kinds of things for the 2 days leading up to the event. Um, and then the live event itself, we were actually each PA, there was a team of about 15 PAs working for E. Um, and we were all kind of assigned more particular roles on the day of the actual live event just because there are a lot of moving parts to make it all work, and they kind of needed functionality in that way.
Cool. And so so the day of the Emmys, where were you assigned? Were you
Yeah. So sorry, I could have gone into that further.
No, it's all good.
Basically, outside of it was happening, the after party was held at crypto.com arena, but the actual event, like the Emmys, the red carpet was right in front of Microsoft Theater. So that's where the actual event was taking place, the award ceremony. So right outside Microsoft Theater, since it's a live event, and this was new to me because I've never worked either TV or live television before. Um, there, yeah, it was a whole new experience for me. There are these trucks that basically are stationed right outside, um, the Microsoft Theater that are effectively like control room
Mm-hmm.
trucks, and so they're like these huge trailers like filled with TVs and desks and all the people that are basically making the magic happen and like live switching to broadcast the event are in these trucks. And my duty was to be a log runner. So I'm still not 100% sure how, the logistics of this process works because I'm sure you need a lot more experience than just a day on the Emmys to understand it all. It's very complicated, but I was basically running like tracking logs from a person who was my supervisor that was writing them to give to a woman in another truck that was nearby, the log so that she could kind of finalize what I believe to be like some final edit or final cut for rerunning the program, if
Oh,
that makes
okay.
sense. It's kind of complicated. I didn't completely understand it myself. I just kind of did my job and did what I was told to. But it was a really interesting process, and it was kind of cool seeing like the backbone of the whole show.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is how I imagine you. Two trucks and Bunny is running back and forth, giving people information. So this was your first time doing a live event. Anything live always can be stressful, but how did you manage that? What was that part like?
Oh, absolutely. Huge valence change from what I worked before, which, is like narrative indie stuff, or like I worked a lot of tech commercials when I was still living in the Bay Area. Huge energy shift from those things in the way that for the most part, the background of production,
Mm.
like I said, setting up tents, the monotony of like PA life is the same, except for, like those 3 hours that we are on the air because everyone needs to be like on their not only their best behavior, but just doing everything as succinctly and seamlessly as possible because you really do feel at that point that you are a cog helping this machine run. And so, my production coordinator, my production manager, and the line producer were all very kind of pounding that into us. Like, we need to really be on top for these next 3 hours. After the red carpet ends at 7, you guys can kind of relax and chill out and have like 2 hours to kind of, get crafty or whatever. But right when the after party live event starts up again, then we have to be on again until 11 or whenever that event ended. So I assume it's probably the same for like a lot of like live broadcast television and the sort. But yeah, huge energy shift from the other production things I've worked on in the past.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's probably like an exciting part of it too. Everything's happening right at the moment. And obviously, with the live event, everything is like planned out as much as possible. But in production, no matter live or not, things might not go as planned. Was there a moment where there was a challenge or things didn't go as planned? And did any of that happen while you were there?
That's a great question. And for some reason, anything that I could answer is evading me right now. I'm sure something went wrong at some point. To what degree? Probably a lesser one if I can't remember it. But that's the thing is like something wrong always happens on these kinds of things on any production. And it's just like human error. And luckily I had a great production team that was supervising me and leading the whole rest of us PAs, that they were very much on top of their, business. And if anything did go wrong, it did not matriculate to like the PAs, which in my opinion is like the best way to operate a set. Is like, if there is a problem, like addressing it quickly, and like if no one else knows on set that something went wrong, like then you're great. uh,
Right. No, that's ideal. And it sounds like you're around some incredible people. And who are some of the people you've met that, I don't know, that kind of stood out to you of like, I mean, I'm sure when you're a PA, you learn a lot being around certain people. Was there anything that you learned um from others while you were there?
Absolutely. I know we had kind of
Hmm.
briefly spoken about this while chatting before, but I think learning, of course, like PAing is learning. Every second of that is learning. It's almost getting like paid to learn a bunch of stuff. Um, but and that's kind of how they sell you as being a PA too, like how they get PAs to, I think, be PAs, is like this promise of learning a lot about the industry, and it's true. But I have to say, from this particular gig, um, I, of course, learned so much, but I also just observed a lot and felt highly motivated leaving it because, my coordinator, manager, and the line producer for this event were all women. And, it's not something, having been someone who's worked in production, not for a lifetime or anything like that, but for
Hmm.
professionally for about 2.5 years, sometimes it's shocking. Like you have to see, you know, your bosses as women, even me as a woman. Like I sometimes, like when that happens, I'm like, oh wait, like why is this jarring? And it's because I'm so used to having the same kind of person be my boss in these like film and entertainment jobs, unfortunately. Um, and seeing these three
Mm.
really extremely hardworking women, like I said, that did not falter, at least to my knowledge, once during this extremely stressful and like strenuous process of getting like the Emmys happening, or at least the red carpet, um, was extremely insightful. And I think I just learned a lot from them as to how to carry yourself. And there were moments where I saw maybe like men who weren't even at their level, like maybe a PA that was a man, address them in a certain way that was or I found disrespectful, and the way they handled this kind of feedback from other men questioning maybe their authority, the grace in which they handled it was extremely insightful for me, and I learned so
Yeah.
much from it.
Yeah. I mean, I had to say, but that's probably a great skill, an additional skill, as a woman in that industry, you got to learn. Um, but that's amazing though to have been in a room where you had women in like these leadership roles. And I don't know that for me, for some reason, that feels very comforting, kind of being in. But nice, yeah. And so this sounds like, was that maybe the biggest difference, in this PA job versus the ones you've had before? It sounds like.
Yeah, I'll have to say, at least, in retrospect, that was really the only thing that was different. And so maybe I'm attributing a lot of my positive feelings towards this experience to that. Um, just because, like I said, like everything I've worked in the past has not been with like a woman led team. Um, but I mean, also they were just, that aside, like just great people, and like the whole team, including my 14 other PAs, were great, and the attitude was great, and morale was really high the whole time. And yeah, I mean, maybe it was just sheer luck, but yeah.
That sounds like an incredible experience. And so, Bunny, I know that your background though is more in, I mean, obviously you've been a PA for like 2 years professionally, but you're a screenwriter. Can I say that? I mean, do you think,
You
I
can't. I
mean,
feel like I can, but you can't.
I know. I always feel like I say that I feel that same way. It's like, oh, I always say like, oh, aspiring this, but no, I mean like you're a great writer. And anyways, the reason I bring that up is because would you say that, there's different parts of the entertainment industry. You have production, pre-production in terms of like, writing something. Do you think that your experience being on set in like, both live or, like you said, you did some indie things. Do you think that helps your writing in any way?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question, first of all. Um,
Mm.
Honestly, my first inclination would be to say no. But, however, um, you know, if you really, at least speaking for myself, I cannot I could not continue living my life if it wasn't occupied with my, my journey to my film one or like make a film one day or write something I'm really proud of one day. And so almost all of my time, personal and otherwise, is really geared towards making that dream happen. And although and that's kind of why I stay like in the orbit of entertainment, even though I don't really plan on like being a producer. See, like if you had asked me if it would help me on my journey to be a producer, of course I'd say yes, because you see it really clearly that a really straight path to become a producer, if you don't have like the resources to go to grad school or you don't have these connections, is to go from PA to coordinator to manager to line producer to and work your way up the ladder. But for a writer, does that help me creatively? No. In fact, like I would say that it almost does the opposite. It's extremely draining. And, unfortunately, sometimes the work can be really debasing. And that's kind of the negative side of it and dehumanizing. Like, I'll just say that right off the bat. But, there are these rare circumstances where you meet people on these sets that are like-minded individuals and they have the same ambitions and dreams of you as you, and that can really feed into it, and help you, kind of stay on path and kind of see that you're not alone and that it's extremely motivating. And then not only that, but I will say, my time, especially working on indies and student films, as whatever I did, I've done like a slew of things on those because like students do everything on films. Like, thank God for students because they literally do everything. Is that has it helped me as a writer? I could not say. I could not find like a definite for that. It has given me incredible insight as a writer and aspiring director as to like the reality of circumstances on set. And I think, it's probably been, I've been able to use my real life experience on sets in thought when applying my writing in practice. What that means is like, okay, like my first film, whether it's like my first feature film, right off the bat, probably is not going to have a huge budget. So because I've worked on films that are like, let's say like westerns or like sci-fis, I know that those budgets are a lot higher because I've worked on those sets. And so, maybe I'll start rethinking my own script if it's like gearing toward some, stuff like that. Just like stuff. So yeah, I'd say that working on sets has helped me in some ways. It's a deficit in some ways, but overall, like I'm happy I'm just working in the field in some aspect.
Right. Oh no, that's a great point too. Of it can help you like, okay, when I am writing my script, like how realistic is this to produce if I were to do it on my own or versus or like, if you're gonna sell it to try to sell it, producers are gonna probably gonna have questions, but you having experience, you're like, okay, at least I know that.
Exactly. 100%. 100%. That's exactly you put that so clearly. Yeah, 100%. Like that's what I mean, especially independent filmmakers. Of course, I want to encourage everyone that I know that writes or wants to be a filmmaker to pursue their real goals. And like if you want to make a movie about space, like make your movie about space. But at the end of the day, like the only person supporting independent filmmakers at its like at the root are themselves. And so it's good to kind of have an eye out for yourself in that way.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Well, it's so cool to hear. about all the about your recent experience at the Emmy Awards, which is so cool because it's like a well, one it's I mean, do you watch that? I know you're more of like a cinema gal, but I don't know. Are you a fan of the Emmy Awards? Do you normally tune in?
Like literally, like no.
That's okay.
It's so embarrassing, like because I'm sure there are a lot of people that probably were just as qualified, if not better qualified than me, that probably do really love the Emmys. So I hope I didn't like steal any spots from anyone that deserved it more than me. But no, when I did find out that I got the gig though, I did go and watch one of the shows that was nominated. I have watched a couple of the shows, but I'm like you said, I'm generally not a TV person. I'm a very
Mhm.
classically pretentious cinema major. Um, so, but yeah, I watched White Lotus because I saw there were
Oh,
nominations. Great show. If I can plug that on your podcast,
oh, of
watch
course.
White Lotus on HBO Max, I think. It's really, really good.
I have heard so many great things, but I started watching that and then I don't know why I stopped. But I do have to continue watching that. First of all, thank you so much for sharing all that insights and I was gonna just end it off with, we were talking
Mhm.
before about, being, as students we're always here, oh, it's all about who you know, it's all about who you know, or really it's all about who knows you in a way. You mentioned to me like finding ways to stay involved is key into like creating those relationships. And I don't know, are there any other tips that you would share with people who are in the same boat as you, or those kind of poking their head into entertainment and the opportunities there? Are there any tips you would share? um,
Yeah, like you said, um, staying involved like really is key. And it's so much easier said than done. And I realize that as someone who's both practiced and not practiced that and goes kind of through, I go through eras of like my involvement in things. Um, and I will say, like, it's a really fast moving industry. And like, I'm not a professional in it, like, by any means, but like, this is just me with like having dipped my toe into the water. It's like, I got that Emmys gig, and then a week and a half later, I got offered something else. And there is like kind of this anxiety to take it, even if maybe you can't or you don't want to for whatever reason, because that is how you keep getting gigs and keep getting your name out there is by being accessible and like being available to people. And sometimes that's not going to work for everyone, and that's okay. And if you can't be accessible all the time or available to everyone who asks you to be a part of something for your mental health, or just logistically, like it doesn't work for your schedule, like that's fine. And like, don't stress yourself out about it, but find other ways to be involved, like go to film screenings and talk to people, um like sit in your classes, and if you think someone has a great idea or is talented, like tell them that and talk to them. And those can possibly be people that help you along the way, or that work with you and like enrich and benefit not only your career, but like your life. um and yeah, I mean, if you really want to be in entertainment, I mean, like I said, I'm speaking for myself, and this may be completely biased and like no one may feel the same way, but I'm kind of one of those people that I love film so much. I have no problem with it becoming every aspect of my life, and if that's not you, that's completely okay. But if that is you and you see yourself in that, like, find different ways to incorporate it into your life, whatever that may be, you know, and just stay involved.
right, and you never know, it might lead to an opportunity, and you might uh I don't know, find yourself on the red carpet paying for something you didn't know 2 weeks ago that you do. So it's you really never know, and that is so cool. Thank you so much, Bunny, for sharing all of that. And it's always great to catch up with you. See
Of
what you're
course, I love
doing.
chatting with you, Maya.
I know.
You're wonderful.
Oh, you're wonderful. Oh my gosh. I never forget when I first met you. I was like, I need help with my log lines. Can you're like, oh, I want to be a screenwriter. I'm like, this is the perfect match. See, you just talk to people. You talk to people, you help
Just
each
talk
other
to
out.
people. 100%. And another thing is like, I may have kind of touched on this, but not just people like in your class or your peers. Like if you see someone like you admire, like, or has a job you want, either email them or go up and talk to them. Like the worst, this is so corny and it's such a cliche, but like the worst thing someone can say is no, you know? Um, and like also asking for help is like, don't never be ashamed of asking for help. And it's something I had to get over too. So just talk to people, really.
Well, yeah. Well, that's great advice. I feel like really for any career that you know are interested in is just talking to people, seeing what's out there, and well, I can't wait to hear what you're gonna do next. Um, whether that be another PA gig or updates on your writing, but thank you so much for sharing all that and for sharing your time with us.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Maya. It's an honor to be, I don't want to say like formally interviewed, but just get a chance to this opportunity. It's been great. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, no, thank you.